To my website. My name is Sue Serlin Resnick. I am the author of Goodnight, My Son, I Love You. In 1998, my son Joel died of suicide. It was a horrible time for both of us. A year and a half prior, Joel called me from the University of Iowa, where he resided. He was a student there. And he asked me to work with himself, his psychiatrist, and his therapist. He said, "Mom, it's uncontrollable. My thoughts of suicide, I can't control, and I'm terrified." Of course I'd work with him. I was so glad that he trusted me enough to call me. It was a very difficult time of our life, and it was a precious time of our life, a very precious time. Joel fought the demons of his mind. By day, he was a student. He was a Toastmaster. He was a leader. He was involved in causes. And by night, he was terrified of himself and his thoughts. Helping Joel was one of the memorable times of my life and one of the saddest times of my life. One day he said to me, "Mom, you don't understand. You don't listen. You don't know what I'm thinking." I knew somewhat of what he was thinking because he shared what it was like to be suicidal. And I said to him, "Joel, I don't know what you're thinking. I really don't. I can't walk in your shoes. But Joel, you could teach me." He didn't take me serious. But then he realized I was very serious. And he did teach me. He developed a program for listening, and I humbled myself. I have taught listening skills and workshops. But now I was the student, and Joel was the teacher. It gave him self-respect. It gave him control. And it was a precious learning time for me. During the year and a half, we documented information. We worked together. We journeyed together. We researched together, and we came up with numerous tools and ideas, both separately and together. We both had support groups for him in Iowa, support groups for me in Michigan in dealing with his situation. And we moved forward, or so we thought. Goodnight, My Son, I Love You is about our journey. It's about the feelings and thoughts of a suicidal person, and myself, the mother, dealing with a child where time was everything. We were looking for interruptions, for anything to stop the suicidal thoughts. Joel was not an alcoholic. He was not a drug addict. He was cause-oriented. He was involved. He was a bodybuilder. He was a powerful person. He wanted to make a difference, and he did. He wanted to make his life important. And in many ways, he did. This book shares through our conversations the process of life, the ugly struggles of the suicidal person, and the torment of death. It shares our hopes and our dreams. It shares specific tools to work with. It shares the plight of the bereaved, the plight of the family, and the plight of myself. It gives faith and understanding, and it gives hope. The tools help those involved no matter what part of the journey you are on. I'm a lay person. A lay person meaning that I have experience being a certified hypnotherapist, an inner child specialist, a workshop presenter, an inner child program presenter, and a person very involved in growth. Self-growth has always been very important to me. I do not pretend, however, to be a professional in this field. I am indeed a layperson. I hope our story will touch you and will help you. If one method is used, if one idea registers, if one thought brings forth a miracle, then this book and every moment that has been put into it has been a marvelous success, a beautiful success. My heart goes out to you. I thank you for coming on the website. I thank you for reading the book. And I thank you for being a part of life and for being part of the story of life. For if you are on this website, which you are, and you are living life as you are, then you, too, have a story to tell.
Okay, Tom.
Welcome to my website. My name is Sue Serlin Resnick. I am the author of Goodnight, My Son, I Love You. In 1998, my son Joel died of suicide. A year and a half prior, I received a call from Joel from the University of Iowa, where he was a student. Mom, my thoughts of suicide are uncontrollable. I'm terrified. Will you work with my psychiatrist, my therapist, and myself? I was deeply saddened, and my heart was broken that it had come to this. I was also honored because my son called me and trusted me to work with him. And we worked together. We worked very closely together. Joel fought the demons of his mind. By day, he was a student. He was a bodybuilder. He was into all kinds of causes. He was a leader. By night, he was terrified of his mind and terrified of who he was and what he could do to himself. He fought the demons as best he could, and he had these feelings on and off for about 10 years. I talked with Joel at least twice a day, and we worked together. We researched, we documented information, we did investigations separately and together. It was a precious time of my life, and it was the saddest time of my life. We did everything we could to get information. One day Joel said to me, Mom, you don't listen. You don't understand. You just aren't getting through, Mom. And I said to Joel, I can't possibly understand, Joel. Oh, I understood some things, but I didn't really know what was going on in Joel's mind as he knew it. I couldn't walk in his shoes, and it wouldn't have been wise to do so. Then I couldn't help him. But I could learn to listen, and that was very important. So I said to Joel, teach me, Joel. Teach me to listen. He didn't take me seriously. But then he realized I meant business. And he did teach me. Joel developed a program, an excellent program, to learn how to listen. And I humbled myself. I humbled myself because I used to teach listening lessons, listening skills and workshops. And there I was being taught by my son, who was suicidal. And it was a precious time and precious moments. And I became the student, he became the teacher. And many times I was the teacher, and he was the student in this year and a half. I unfortunately had to commit him twice. In essence, we committed him because he had to approve of being committed. And I hope that that would change the circumstances. Unfortunately, it did not. Good Night, My Son, I Love You is the story of our journey together, of the plight of the suicidal person, of the torment of the suicidal person, of the torment of the family, and of the torment, too, of the professional in trying and making every effort to help him. Joel was not an alcoholic and he was not a drug addict. He was a cause-oriented person. He was a bodybuilder. He was a leader. But even a leader can have mental illness and can be suicidal. And Joel certainly was suicidal. But Joel's goal was to make a difference in this world, and he did. He wanted to help others, and he did. It was reflected by what others said after he passed away. Still, as we worked through the situations and Joel tried new ideas and techniques and tools, the suicidal thoughts came back. And when they came back, Joel was again terrified of himself. It was a very sad moment, a very sad moment. The purpose of this book is to help those who are suicidal. It's to help families to work with this person who is suicidal, this loved one. It's for those who are bereaved and dealing with the loss of a loved one. And it's for those who also are professional. Regardless where the suicidal person is on the scale, many of these tools may help. They may interrupt the cycle of suicide, and they may be a miracle that helps them to live and live life successfully. This is the hope in the journey of the book. But
Okay, Tom.
I am a lay person. Although my background includes a certified hypnotherapist, an inner child specialist, a workshop presenter for 33 years, I'm indeed not a professional therapist in this area. Absolutely not. I learned and worked with them to help my son. I would do anything to help my son. I hope this story will help you. If one method touches you, if one idea sparks a miracle or an interruption of the thoughts of suicide or the contemplation of suicide, then this book, every single moment put into this book, every single dedication and mission and passion put into this book is indeed a marvelous success. I thank you for being on my website. I applaud you for coming to the website. I have a story to tell. The story is in the book. You being on this website are here as part of life. And as part of a life, part of your life, you have a story to tell too. Thank you. Welcome to my website. My name is Sue Serlin Resnick. I am the author of Goodnight, My Son, I Love You. In 1998, my son Joel died of suicide. A year and a half prior, he called me from the University of Iowa, where he was a student. Mom, the suicidal thoughts are uncontrollable. I don't know what to do. I am panicked, I am terrified, and I need your help. I want you to work with my therapist, my psychiatrist, and myself. My heart was broken that it had come to this, but it was also a precious moment because my son was trusting me. Joel fought the demons of his mind. He was a tormented soul. By day, he was a student. He was a student, a leader, a bodybuilder, cause-oriented, a powerful person. By night, he was a terrified soul, frightened of himself and his thoughts. We worked together, and I talked with him at least twice a day. At one time, I had committed him twice, 2 times. He had to approve me committing him, and it took convincing. One day he said to me, Mom, you don't listen. You don't understand. I'm not getting through to you. And I said, Joel, I can't walk in your shoes. I don't know what you're thinking. And if I did walk in your shoes, I couldn't be of help. But Joel, I can learn to listen, and you can teach me. Joel didn't take me seriously. And I said, I mean it. And he realized it. And so he developed a program. It was an excellent program for learning to listen. I humbled myself, and I became the student, even though I had presented workshops in listening. It was a precious moment because Joel was respecting himself. He was in control. He was teaching me. And I was learning. And I was taking it and working with it and helping Joel. During this year and a half, Joel and I documented information. We researched, we documented, we worked together, we worked apart, we did everything we could to find something that would cause an interruption in these suicidal thoughts and spark a miracle. And so many tools were formulated. Some he worked with, some he didn't. But always he was achieving support systems for himself, and I was achieving support systems for me from Michigan, and he from Iowa. And always I thought and believed that he would overcome. Good Night, My Son, I Love You is about our journey. It's about what it feels like to be suicidal from Joel. It's about what it feels like to be the mother of a suicidal person working with him. It's about what it's like to lose a son to suicide. And it's about the professional as well. Joel was not an alcoholic. He was not a user of drugs. He was a person who wanted to make a difference in his world. He was involved with the environment. He was involved with being a leader. And he did make a difference in his world. Like I said before, by day, he was a person moving forward. By night, he was terrified. And Joel did not realize his successes. His perception was different than mine or others who knew him. The book shows through our conversations our total journey.
Okay.
I am a lay person. Although my background includes being a hypnotherapist, inner child specialist, workshop speaker, and a person very involved in growth, I am not an expert in this area at all, and I don't pretend to be. I hope that the book touches you. If one method changes your life, if one idea sparks an interruption in contemplating suicide, then this book and every moment I put into it, and every person who has been a part of this book, then this book, because it helped you, is a marvelous success, and I am deeply grateful. My heart goes out to all of you. All of us have a story to tell. All of us who are on this website are here as a part of life. And as a part of life, we all have a story.
Okay.
Welcome to my website. My name is Sue Serlin Resnick. I'm the author of Good Night, My Son, I Love You. In 1998, my son Joel died of suicide. It started over. That came through.
Yeah. Action.
Welcome to my website. My name is Sue Serlin Resnick. I'm the author of Good Night, My Son, I Love You. In 1998, my son Joel died of suicide. He called me from the University of Iowa, where he resided, and said, "Mom, it's uncontrollable. I can't control my thoughts about suicide, and I'm terrified. Will you work with myself, my therapist, and my psychiatrist?" My heart was broken. Joel had had challenges in suicidal thoughts on and off for about 10 years. And here we were with very, very serious thoughts of contemplating suicide. We worked very closely together. I talked with him at least twice a day. And there were precious moments, terrifying moments, and very sad moments. Joel fought the demons of his mind. By day, he was cause-oriented. He was a student. He was a leader. He was a bodybuilder. And by night, he was a terrified soul. Joel and I researched together. We documented information. We journaled separately. We talked together. Joel utilized many tools. He had a specialized support system for himself, and I had a support system for myself. We bonded together. We trusted each other. And the outgrowth was our book. One day Joel called me and he said, "Mom, you don't understand. You don't know what's going on in my mind. You just don't get it." And I said, "Joel, I can't be in your shoes. I don't know what you're feeling. And it would not help us if I ever went into your shoes. Because I need to see you overcoming. But Joel, I can learn to listen, and you can teach me." And Joel didn't take me seriously. But when I said, "I mean it," he took me very seriously. And he devised a program, and it was a good one. And he taught me to listen. I became his student, and he became my teacher. We worked together closely, and this was a good time because Joel was respecting himself and he was in control. I had to humble myself because I have taught listening classes in my workshops, and I was delighted to do so because I saw a change, and I learned to listen. And Joel learned too, to hear. During the year and a half that we worked together, we took this amazing journey and this very sad journey to help each other, to grow each other. I learned what it was like to be suicidal because he shared it. He learned what it was like to be the mother of a suicidal person working with him. And that's in the book. Because as a mother, it is extremely painful to watch a child enter the darkness. Joel was not an alcoholic. He was not a drug addict. He was a person who wanted to make a difference in people's lives. And he did. He did in many ways, but his perception was different. All of us knew he was making a difference, but Joel did not. Again, by day, he was a leader. By night, he was a sufferer, a tormented soul. And it went on and on. This book shares Joel's hopes and dreams. It shares our hopes and dreams. It shares specific methods and specific tools to work with. It gives hope to the suicidal. It gives hope to the families. It gives learning to the bereaved and information to the professional. I am a lay person, and as a lay person, I do have a background. I am a certified hypnotherapist, an inner child specialist. I've given workshops for years, but I have no background in working with suicidal people. I am not an expert in this area. I'm definitely a lay person. I hope this book touches you, and it is of help. Most definitely of help. If one method makes a difference, then that is wonderful. If one idea interrupts the feelings of suicide, that is excellent. If one technique helps a family to work with their loved one, that is wonderful. And that makes every moment in putting this book together, and all the people who helped me, it makes that moment, and it makes every moment, a marvelous success, a beautiful success. My heart goes out to you. Being on this website, you are here as a living human being looking for information. And as a living human being, your life is precious. And just as I have a story to tell, you have a story to tell too. Thank you.
Action.
My name is Sue Serlin Resnick. I am the author of Goodnight, My Son, I Love You. In 1998, my son Joel Serlin died of suicide. A year and a half prior, Joel called me from the University of Iowa, where he was a student. Mom, the thoughts of being suicidal, are uncontrollable. I am terrified. Will you work with my therapist, my psychiatrist, and myself? I was deeply saddened to know that it had come to this. Joel fought the demons of his mind. He fought the struggles and the torment, and his torment became my torment. I would do anything to help my son. We worked together very closely. I talked to him at least twice a day, and I had to commit him with his permission. One day, Joel called me and he said, Mom, you don't listen. You don't hear. You don't know what I'm going through. You don't understand me. And I said, Joel, I couldn't possibly understand. I couldn't possibly know what shoes you walk in. I'm not in your mind, but I can learn to listen. And Joel proceeded to develop a program for me to learn to listen. I was his teacher in so many areas, and now I was his student. It was one of the better times and the best times. It gave Joel self-respect. It gave him control. He was utilizing his creativity, and he was teaching me. And this was wonderful. During this year and a half, Joel and I documented our information. We researched together. We worked very closely. I learned what it was like to be suicidal, and Joel learned what it was like to be the mom of a suicidal son. It was a time of trust. Goodnight, My Son, I Love You is a story of our journey. This book is a story of determination. It shows the ugly struggles and the torment of death. It shares our hopes and our dreams. It's Joel's attaché case of his goals that he carried around. It gives you specific methods for learning and growing that helped us and helps others. It gives hope to those who are suicidal. It gives faith to those who are the families of the suicidal. It gives specific information to the bereaved, and it helps the professional. Wherever you are on the scale, it has something for you. I am a mom. Although I am a professional hypnotherapist, a workshop speaker, a presenter, and a person who deeply is involved in growth, I am a mom. I am not a mental health expert. I wanted to help my son as much as I possibly could, but nothing, no background, could have prepared me for what I experienced during this journey. If one method is used, if one thought changes a life, if one tool works for you, then this book has been worth every moment put into it, and it is a magnificent success, a wonderful success. My heart goes out to each of you. I know that being on this website, you may also have a very important story to tell. I trust that you will have major benefits from reading my book. I thank you for reading Good Night, My Son, I Love You.
Okay.
My name is Sue Serlin Resnick. I am the author of Good Night, My Son, I Love You. In 1998, my son, Joel Serlin, died of suicide. A year and a half prior, Joel called me from the University of Iowa, where he was a student. Mom, I can't control the thoughts of suicide. I'm terrified. Will you work with my psychiatrist, my therapist, and myself? Joel fought the demons of his mind, and they became my struggles also. It was a very difficult time. I had to commit my son twice with his permission. I talked with him at least twice a day. We built trust for each other, and we worked very closely together. One day he said to me, Mom, you don't listen, you don't hear, you don't understand what I'm going through. And I said, Joel, I can't possibly walk in your shoes, but I can learn to listen. And Joel developed a very good program for me to listen. He became my teacher, and I became his student. We both worked very closely together and built trust. That was one of our happy times. During this year and a half, we researched together. We documented information. We worked closely. I learned what it was like to be suicidal, and he learned what it was like to be a mom. It was a difficult time, and it was a great time in many ways. During this year and a half, we accomplished a great deal in growing and in trust. Good Night, My Son, I Love You is the story of our journey. This book is a story of determination, ugly struggles and the torment of death. Joel shares his hopes and his dreams. The book brings specific tools for the suicidal, for the families of the suicidal, for the bereaved, and for the professional. The book gives hope, and I say that word again, hope for all of us. And no matter where you are on the journey, there is something here for you to learn from. If one method changes an attitude, if one tool saves a life, if one thought brings a new experience to life, then this book is worth every moment put into it, and it is a magnificent success. My heart goes out to each of you. Absolutely. And I applaud you on your way. I see you being helped by the book. I trust that you will experience major benefits from this book. And I know that if you are on this website, that you most likely have a very important story to tell. Thank you for reading. Good night, my son. I love you.
Okay, John. Okay.
My name is Sue Serlin Resnick. I am the author of Good Night, My Son, I Love You. In 1998, my son Joel died of suicide. A year and a half earlier, he called me from the University of Iowa, where he was a student. Mom, the suicidal thoughts are uncontrollable. I need help. I'm scared. I'm terrified. Will you work with my therapist, my psychiatrist, and myself? Joel fought the demons in his mind. His struggles became my struggles. We talked to each other at least twice a day. I unfortunately had to commit him twice with his permission. It was a very sad experience, and it had beautiful memories. One day Joel called me and he said, Mom, you don't understand what I'm feeling. You don't listen. You don't hear. You don't know what's going on in my mind. And I said, Joel, I can't possibly walk in your shoes, but I can learn to listen. And so Joel devised an excellent plan for me to learn to listen. He became my teacher, and I was his student. It was a beautiful time in our experience. Our book shares the story of our journey. And during this time, Joel and I documented information. We researched information together and apart. We worked very closely together, and we learned from each other. This book is a story of determination, the ugly struggles of the suicidal, and the torment of death. It is hopes and dreams. It is Joel's attaché case of goals that he carried around all the time. It is very specific tools to work with for the suicidal, for the families of the suicidal, the bereaved, and further information for the professional. These tools can help you as they helped us. Wherever you are on the journey, there is much to learn. I am a mom. Although I am a professional hypnotherapist, workshop speaker, inner child specialist, and a person very involved in self-growth for years, I am not a mental health expert. I learned from the mental health experts. If one method makes a difference, if one idea saves a life, if one thought helps you, then this book has been worth every minute put into it. And it is a marvelous success. My heart goes out to each of you. Definitely. All of us, wherever we are on the path, have a story to tell. And that is a very important story. I trust that you will learn from our book, and it will help you. And I thank you for reading. Good night, my son. I love you. My name is Sue Serlin Resnick. I am the author of Good Night, My Son, I Love You. In 1998, my son died of suicide. A year and a half prior, Joel called me from the University of Iowa, where he was a student, and said, "Mom, my thoughts of suicide are uncontrollable. I'm panicked and I'm scared. Will you work with my therapist, my psychiatrist, and myself?" Joel felt he had demons in his mind. He had torment in his soul. And his torment became my torment. I talked with him at least twice a day. And unfortunately, I had to commit him twice with his permission. One day he called me. He said, "Mom, you don't understand. You don't listen. You don't hear." And I said to him, "Joel, I can't walk in your shoes. I don't understand, but I can learn to listen." Joel developed an excellent program for me to listen. I took it very seriously. I became his student, and he became my teacher. Joel and I, during that year and a half period, documented together, researched together, went everywhere we could to learn of new support groups. I was in support groups. He was in support groups. We did the very best we could. Joel did the very best he could with the information he had. There were beautiful times, and there were very, very difficult times. Very difficult times. Good Night, My Son is about our journey. This book is a book of determination. It's the ugly struggles of the suicidal. It's the torment of death. It's also the hopes and dreams of life. It's the attaché case that Joel carried with him with his goals. It's specific tools for the suicidal, for the bereaved, for the families of the suicidal, and it's information for the professional. Wherever you are on the scale, I trust there will be something there to help you. Absolutely. I am a mom. Although I am a professional certified hypnotherapist, an inner child specialist, a workshop presenter, and a person very involved in self-growth, I am not a mental health expert. I went to the mental health experts to get information to help my son. If one method helps you, if one idea saves a life, if one thought makes a difference, then all the time put into this book, every moment, was well worth it. And it is a magnificent success. My heart goes out to all of you. I know that being on this website, you may also have a very serious and very important story to tell. I thank you. I trust that there will be information in this book that will help you and tools that you can work with. Thank you so much for reading. Good night, my son. I love you.
Son.
My name is Sue Serlin Resnick. I am the author of Good Night, My Son, I Love You. In 1998, my son Joel died of suicide. A year and a half earlier, Joel called me from the University of Iowa, where he was a student. Mom, my thoughts of suicide are uncontrollable. I'm panicked and I'm scared. Will you work with my therapist, my psychiatrist, and myself? Joel fought the demons in his mind. He had a battle with his very soul. He felt he had so much torment in his soul, and his struggles became my struggles. I talked with Joel at least twice a day. Twice I had to commit him with his permission. One day Joel called me. He said, Mom, you don't listen. You don't hear. You don't understand what I'm going through. And I said, Joel, I couldn't possibly understand what you're going through. I can't walk in your shoes. But I can learn to listen. And Joel devised a marvelous program for listening. I became his student, and he became my teacher. That was a beautiful time. During this year and a half, we researched together. We documented together. We researched to find every program we could think of to help him overcome suicide. It was a beautiful time, and it was a very, very difficult time. Good Night, My Son, I Love You is the story of our journey. The book is determination. It's determination for Joel to succeed successfully in life. The book is the struggles of the suicidal and the torment of death. It is also the experience of life, the hopes and dreams. Joel carried an attaché case of goals. And that attaché case was so very dear to him. It is the specific tools, and these tools help the suicidal. They help the families of the suicidal, the bereaved, and there is information for the professional. Wherever you are on the scale, there is something to learn. I am a mom. I am a professional hypnotherapist, an inner child specialist, a workshop speaker, and I am very, very involved in self-growth. I am not a mental health expert. The support groups Joel went to, the support groups I went to, they were from information from mental health experts. If one method helps you, if one idea makes a difference, if one thought saves a life, then this book is worth every moment put into it. And it is a magnificent success. My heart goes out to you. You being on this website, you as I, may have a very serious and very important story to tell. I thank you. I thank you for reading this book. And I know and trust that you will get major benefits from Good Night, My Son. I love you.
Son.
My name is Sue Serlin Resnick. I am the author of Good Night, My Son, I Love You. In 1998, my son died of suicide. A year and a half prior, he called me from the University of Iowa, where he was a student. He said, "Mom, the thoughts are uncontrollable. I am thinking all the time of suicide. Would you work with my therapist, my psychiatrist, and myself?" Joel had demons in his mind. His struggles became my struggle. We built trust. We worked together. I talked with Joel at least twice a day for the year and a half. He tried everything he could think of, and I would do anything to help my son. It was a difficult time, and it was a time I will never, ever forget. I had to commit my son twice with his permission. One day he said to me, "Mom, you don't listen, you don't hear, you don't understand what I'm going through." And I said, "Joel, I can't be in your shoes. I don't understand, but I can listen. So teach me." Joel developed a very good program for listening, and I learned. I became his student and his teacher, and we worked together. It was one of the better times and a very memorable time in this year and a half. During this period of time, we documented information together and apart. We researched. We worked closely. I learned what it was like to be suicidal, and he learned what it was like to be a mom of a suicidal child. We were very close. Good Night, My Son, I Love You is the story of our journey. It's the story of what happened to us. I am a mom. Although I am a professional hypnotherapist, an inner child specialist, a workshop speaker, and a person very involved in self-growth, I am not a mental health expert. I'm a mom trying to do everything I did to help my son. And both of us did the very best we could with the information we had. This book is a story of determination, the ugly struggles of suicide and the torment of death. It is the hopes and the dreams, the attaché case that Joel carried around with his goals. It is very specific tools to help those who are suicidal, families of the suicidal, the bereaved, and the professional. Wherever you are on the journey, there is something to help you. And it is something that Joel has given to the public. If one method is used, one thought changes an attitude, one idea saves a life, then every moment put into this book was worth it. And it is a magnificent success. Absolutely. My heart goes out to each of you. I know what it is like to make an effort to be a step ahead of suicide. If you are on this website, which you are, I know that most of you have a very, and maybe all of you, a very important story to tell. I trust that you will experience major benefits from my book. I thank you for reading Good Night, My Son, I Love You.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, I talked.
Well, just keep going. Just start. It doesn't matter.
Okay. My name is Sue Serlin Resnick. I am the author of Good Night, My Son, I Love You. In 1998, my son Joel Serlin died of suicide. 1.5 years prior, he called me from the University of Iowa, where he was a student. He said, "Mom, the suicidal thoughts are uncontrollable, and I'm terrified." And he said, "Will you please work with my therapist, my psychiatrist, and myself?" We did work together. Joel fought the demons of his mind, and that became my struggles also. It was a difficult time, and in many ways it was a beautiful time. Joel worked to help himself, and both of us did the best we could with the information we had. I had to commit Joel twice with his permission, and we talked twice a day for that period of time. One day Joel said to me, "Mom, you don't listen, you don't hear, you don't understand what I'm feeling." And I said, "Joel, I can't possibly walk in your shoes, but I can learn to listen." And Joel devised a program, a very good program. I became the student, and he became the teacher. That was one of our most beautiful times in our experience. During the year and a half Joel and I documented information, we researched together and apart. We looked for anything and everything we could for Joel to get better. I would do anything to help my son. Anything to help my son. Joel shared what it is like to be suicidal. And of course, he shared his feelings within the journey. And I shared from him listening to me and from speaking what it's like to be a mom of a suicidal son. Good Night, My Son, I Love You is a story of our journey. This book is a story of determination. It's the ugly struggles. It's the torment of death. And it's the fight for life. It is the faith and the hope and an attaché case of dreams and goals that were carried around by Joel. It is specific tools to help the suicidal, the bereaved, the families of the suicidal, and give further understanding to the professional. Wherever you are on the journey, there is help for you. I am a mom. Although I am a professional hypnotherapist, I am a workshop speaker, an inner child specialist, and a person very involved in self-growth. I am not a mental health expert. I learned from the mental health experts. If one method makes a difference, if one idea helps save a life, if one thought helps someone who is bereaved, then this book has been worth every moment that was put into it. And it is a magnificent success. My heart goes out to each of you, absolutely. I know that being on this website, you as I have a very important story to tell. I trust that you will benefit greatly from my book. And I thank you for reading Good Night, My Son, I Love You.